and by putting less pressure on myself as a rider, and of course, less pressure on our horses. So I'm going to share with you a daily skill that I developed and I use daily that's helped me to manage a herd of 25 horses that I've had out there and to ride to the highest levels of horsemanship and dressage. And what dwell time actually means for your horse. So, hi, my name is Chris Adderson. If you want to get notified of when I go live here to get the trainings coming directly to you, you can click the bell icon right there, and you will get notifications sent to you. So, one of the hardest things to do, and I know for me, I am what I describe here, I am a typical A-type person and rider. And so I find as I work with a lot of riders and their horses over the years, there's one thing that's really hard for A-type people to do, and that is to take breaks or to wait. And if they are waiting, they start to get stress building up, right? And then doubt comes in, and then you start to hate yourself or get angry, and then it just spirals and goes on and on and on after that. I am definitely that type of person. So I'm not judging you at all, but what I want to do here is give you some help and tell you what I've done over the years that has helped me. And so what you need to do on a regular basis is this, the dwell time, right? I already mentioned that. So dwell time is one way of calling it, or breaks with your horses, or pauses. Those are different words that you might hear somebody say about what you need to do with your horse. And really, this is where the magic is in these pauses. And I want to just go back to when I was a dancer. And this is where really we were taught when we were performing that the magic is in the silence, or the magic is in the pauses. The magic is in the hesitation, in the breath, in the transition before the movement. That's where the magic actually lies. And that's where the connection to your audience happens. Well, it's the same with our horses, right? Ray Hunt said exactly the same when I studied with him years ago and went to his clinics. He would talk about the licking and the chewing of the horses, and we can take it so much further than that. There are so many different nuances that if we only take the break, or we take the pause, or we take these dwell times, and I'm going to talk about 3 different kinds of dwell times. If we actually take the time to do this, we will start to notice. We will start to settle into ourselves, and our horses will start to settle with us. Right? Things we might notice are, what's the eye doing, right? Not only is it blinking, but is it staring? Is it half open? Is it half closed maybe? And you can look at the photo at the beginning of this video, a photograph of my horse and I, and you can look at her eyes in that photograph, and you can see what her eyes are doing and how she is actually connecting with me. And after I studied with Ray Hunt too, then I studied a lot of energy work and traveled many different places to study from energy people, studied from amazing people. And then, as usual, what I did is I took that information and I brought it to my herd of horses. I've always had a large herd of horses where I've used to test all these ideas out, and different kinds of horses, all different backgrounds, all different breeds, different ages, different stages in their education. And I've tested everything that I put in actually our program on this herd of horses. So they've been my wonderful, amazing guinea pigs. All right, and then with this energy work, it can be done on or off the horse. right? It doesn't have to be in contact. It can be away from the horse as well. So let's talk about the 3 different kinds of dwell time. So first of all, and this is what I do every day. This is a skill that I've managed to develop every day, that I do without really missing a day ever. And that is dwell time in the living conditions that your horse is in, right? So in the home of your horse, I spend dwell time with the horse where they are living. My herd of horses, I'm very fortunate. I have the ability to have my horses in a herd, in a social situation. They're all outside. They have shelters. They have all their basic needs met. They have socialization, and I observe them every day, whether it's from my house looking out the window or whether I'm actually in the paddock with them. I'm with them every day. And this skill, what I do is I then observe without judgment. All right, so the labels that you sometimes see around horses, that they're right-brained or left-brained or introvert or extrovert, I don't like to use those, because that categorizes your horse into slots them into a box, and then that does not allow yourself to actually observe them and what might be happening, because you're always seeing it from that perspective, right? Oh, my horse is a right brain introvert. And so you dissect into that and you miss times when your horse might be an extrovert. All right, so try to stay away from those kinds of labels if you can, and you observe, right, without judgment. What's going on? How does your horse interact with other horses? If your horse isn't in with other horses, maybe across the fence, how does your horse interact across the fence? How does your horse act around food? How does your horse sleep? How does your horse play? Those different kinds of things. So you're basically going to observe without judgment. See how your horse interacts in your horse's home, in their environment. And then the next part is to accept who they are. Okay? So we don't have labels put on them. So we can now observe and then accept who your horse is. Right? And that can be a very insecure horse, maybe. Right? A very confident horse. But you're accepting where they are. And from there, that's when you can actually figure out how to problem solve. Let's carry on about accepting who your horse is just a little bit here. I want to give you an example. So we have a student in our program, and she submitted her lesson for a lesson just recently, and it's done by video. And she submitted the video, and right at the very beginning of the video, I know she was busy, right? She's busy with how to record, all the tech stuff on how to record it, but it's not difficult. She's got it all figured out. But right from the very beginning with her horse, she was busy, right? She was thinking about things that she had to do. She was getting everything in place. And so immediately in our lesson, this is what we addressed. We addressed how to actually ground yourself, how to do what I'm talking about here, dwell time. Dwell time with her horse. From the minute you go out and take your horse and put the halter on, right? This is leading into the next dwell time, which is when we want to ride our horse or do in hand with our horse. So I helped this rider in our program to, and we have this video so we can look at it and we can see what she is not able to feel at the moment, what she is not able to think about at the moment. It's a brilliant process. Anyways, we help her to see what's going on. And we can tell immediately when she had emotions that were getting in her way, right? Her horse was busy with the bit, right? Lips going everywhere, here and there and everything. And it's so frustrating for her when this happens because the horse is distracted, the use of the bit isn't working, there's not understanding there. So we give her the experience to know what is happening at that point in time. What we did with our student when she submitted her lesson, we helped her with emotional recognition, okay? Our emotions lead to thoughts, which lead to our actions. So she wasn't even aware that she had emotions that were of total frustration and even anger. And of course, our horses pick up on that, which does not help the situation of the fussiness with the bit, all right? And then what we helped her with is her movement effectiveness, what she's actually doing. So we work within this blueprint. We have this framework. We have this blueprint in our program. And we also allow free and flowing uniqueness to happen as well. So there's a blueprint, there's processes within that blueprint, but the uniqueness is what we're looking for with you and your horse and what you are experiencing. All right. So let's go on to, I already touched on the dwell time in an activity, right? In doing in hand or riding, our dwell time that we have within an activity. And this is where it can be very hard for us type A riders because we want control, right? We want to be in control of the situation. And I already mentioned there's a difference between being in control and being controlling, right? A mother of a 5-year-old child needs to be in control, definitely, right? Otherwise, it can be chaos. When you're around your horses, you need to be in control, but not controlling. Yeah, we want our child to be able to have a say, to be able to have a discussion, to be able to express feelings, to be able to talk. The same with our horses. We want our horses to be able to talk to us, and we need to have a way to talk back to them. And once you have that, then, as one of our students said, the world is your oyster, which is what we do in our program. Okay, so dwell time within an activity. We get very busy, don't we? Doing all kinds of busy stuff with our horses. We get spread too thin, right? And again, I want to give you an example of one of our students in our program. She's homeschooling her kids. She's a body worker. She's a therapist. She's with horses every day. But yet she was finding that her relationship was not satisfying. She said her horses don't want to really be with her, that there wasn't inspiration behind the horses being with her. She felt she couldn't inspire her horses. And by the way, it was the same with her children. She felt that she was being more of a dictator than actually inspiring her children. As well, a very type A personality. So how she solved this, she noticed it first of all, and that's why she contacted me and came into our program, was because she said, I was feeling very angry. And then the anger went to sadness. And when it got to sadness, that's when she really couldn't handle it, because she was so sad that everything that she did, and yet her horse didn't want to be with her. In the 3rd week of our program, I believe it was, she said, and she's a craniosacral therapist, she said, I have been a craniosacral therapist for 10 years, and I have never felt what I felt when I put my hands on my horse. Right? She said something like, I could feel the tissues moving underneath my hands like I've never felt before, which is exactly what we work on in our program, right? Not just with our hands, but we work on how to feel with our whole bodies, because isn't that what riding is all about? It's about feeling with our bodies, with our spines, our seat, our legs, our hands, our arms, right? But the whole unit, feeling with our whole bodies and recognizing emotions. And this is how the dwell time when you're riding, for example, and the student that I was just telling you about, she was saying that she could now start doing things with her horse that she wasn't able to do before. So when you're riding, the dwell time is time when you take a break, and it can be in action, or it can be totally in a static position, but you take a break and you actually use your inner self to feel what's going on, right? Breathe, ground yourself, even in the saddle. And we show you how to do this. Ground yourself in the saddle. We show you how to take that dwell time, which is so important for your horse, because that's the time that they assimilate. That's the time that they comprehend. That's the time that what you've just done becomes more of a good, effective pattern for them. Otherwise, your busyness becomes their anxiousness, right? By being busier, it does not help a horse to not be anxious. You need the spaces. You need the silence. You need the calmness and the break. And the third dwell time that I want to mention here is that the dwell time when you're actually close to your horse. So we've talked about when you're an outside observer, observing them in their natural home conditions. We've talked about when you're riding your horse or doing in hand or you're lunging, dwell time during that time. And we've also talked about, we're going to now, dwell time when you're close to your horse, right? So it could be when you're grooming your horse, when you're preparing to ride, when you've finished a ride. Those times are times when you really want to focus on how your horse starts to reach out to connect with you. Yeah, and it can be very simple. I used to have a gelding, his name was Merlin, and he would always put his nose on my head. And sometimes it would be a real dirty, mucky nose, but he would always put his nose on my head. And now if that goes unrecognized or not acknowledged, then your horses will just stop giving you that. So when you're close to your horse, this is the time to really dwell and focus on your energy that's coming from your body. Focus on your thoughts. Focus on feelings that you have, images that you can have or that are coming up to you, and really go into that zone of being, right? Be with your horse. Let the flow happen so you can be with your horse, so that then you can start to have the connection and the communion that you're looking for. And that is to help riders, because this is not taught very well. In fact, what is taught is backwards to what you need as good quality rider education. So I've basically flipped it on its head and developed a program that can help you very clearly to find out what's blocking you, find out where you're stuck, find out what your horse needs. And then we work together to give that to your horse so that you can build the bond and so that you can get the results that you're needing and not stay stuck, because time goes by, doesn't it? And it goes by quickly. Click on the link and we'll see if we can help you, how we can help you. We'll come on a chat with you and we can use our program to help you to sort these things out. All right. Put notes for me. I will get back to you. And thanks so much for being here. Have a great weekend. Go out with your horses. And I'm really happy if you write back to me and tell me how what I've told you today has changed your way you look at horses. Changed the way you think about what it is, what it's like to work with your horse. All right. Bye for now. See you next time.